Hi everyone, it's meteorologist Brian Bennett. I wanted to start with the most important graphic. It is the most deadly part of a hurricane, and it's probably going to be the most devastating part of this hurricane as well, storm surge. We're looking at a possibility of a 2 to 4 foot storm surge moving into parts of Naples and Fort Myers and Charlotte Harbor, Punta Gorda. A bit of a break, not the worst of the storm, and you deserve a break after Hurricane Ian last year. Head farther north, middle of Longboat Key up to Anclo River. That includes Anna Maria Island, St. Pete Beach, Clearwater, Reddington, even the estuary of Tampa itself. So South Tampa, Apollo Beach, you could see a bit of flooding as the bay expands its banks as well. And some homes and businesses are going to be flooded in this area. And there's a possibility that the water could not only come on shore from the intracoastal, but could also come on shore from the actual beach itself. Some of these dunes may not be large enough to hold back some of the water that will be coming as we move into tomorrow night. Heading up into parts of Pasco and Hernando County, we're looking at a 6 to 9 foot storm surge. So if you were standing on the beach in Howard Beach or Hernando Beach during the peak of the storm, unless you're wicked tall, that water would be above your head. Heading farther north, into the eastern part of the Big Bend, we're looking at a 7 to 11 foot storm surge in this area. Fortunately, not quite as populated, but nonetheless, if you do live in this area, please do evacuate. Don't become one of those pictures or videos of folks being rescued from the roof of their house because they didn't leave. We know it's coming. Go ahead and get out of Dodge. If you're close to the water in Crystal River or areas anywhere here in the Big Bend, get out of town. That water is coming and it's going to come on very strong and very high, and you can survive it and leave right now. Tropical storm Idalia, winds 70 miles per hour. It is still a tropical storm as of the 2 p.m. update, but later this afternoon it will likely become a hurricane. You only need winds of 4 more miles per hour. The track, all the models are pretty much on the same page. Let me slide this over. Pretty much everybody making landfall right around Cedar Key area. That's kind of ground zero as of right now. But the cone and the uncertainty from the models does include everybody from northern Tampa Bay to the western part of the Big Bend to roughly Apalachicola. So there's still a little bit of uncertainty in exactly where this is going to make landfall. But nonetheless, everybody should be watching it very closely if you're anywhere from Sarasota all the way to Panama City. But right now, really buckling down in northern Tampa Bay and the Big Bend area as the storm is most likely heading your direction. And you don't see too many storms in this part of Florida. The red color represents 32 storms, hurricanes, that Monroe County has seen since 1900. Head up towards parts of Taylor County, you've only seen 2 hurricanes over the past 110 years. So very unlikely to get a hurricane in this part of Florida, but nonetheless, this storm is going to be the exception to that rule. Some data from the hurricane reconnaissance aircraft that is flying in the storm right now. They just went through the storm and found a wind speed of around 70 miles per hour, and that was reflected in the 2 p.m. update. Very close to getting that 74 mile per hour wind speed that we need for a hurricane. The storm is starting to look a little more healthy. You can see on the visible satellite imagery here. A little dry on the north side of the storm, as you can see better here on the water vapor imagery. You can see the yellow and red orangish color representing dry air. Some of that is being entrained into the center of the storm, and that's why it hasn't already become a hurricane, is because it's tackling this dry air. But we're slowly going to see this moisture wrap around the center of circulation and eventually develop a concentric low. They will not care that it's surrounded by dry air because it will be feeding off of its own environment. And it is going to do that. It is going to become a hurricane. It's not a question of if it becomes a hurricane. It is going to become a hurricane, and likely a major hurricane at that. We're moving over some wicked warm water as we move into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Water temperatures approaching 90 degrees, making this some of the hottest water in the entire world. Let's take a look at the computer model here. This is the RRFS-A, a relatively new model, but I really like the way it's handling the data and presenting the visuals here. So this is a look at future radar, and you can see the storm moving up into the Gulf of Mexico, becoming a bit of a buzzsaw, and then eventually heading to the northeast and making landfall, perhaps right around the Cedar City area, where those spiraling octopus arms coming off of it, bringing lots of rain and even the risk of tornadoes and strong damaging winds as well. In the Tampa area, the outer rain bands should start up right around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In the downtown Tampa area, the meat and potatoes of the storm is going to start to move in right around 9 or 10 p.m., so shortly after sunset. It's going to be a really windy, stormy, rainy night in much of Tampa and Tampa Bay, and then that storm moves onshore with its wind and its fury as it moves up into parts of the Big Bend, and then even some trailing rain bands could bring some strong storms lingering into your Wednesday as well. Here's a look at the National Hurricane Center track, and you can see the cone leaves a bit of uncertainty, but if it follows the direct middle of this cone and heads into the Cedar City area, then we're looking at winds of right around 115 miles per hour, sustained near the center of the storm, gusting to around 140 miles per hour. Here's a look at the future wind speed graphic from the RRFSA graphic or model, and you can see the stronger winds gradually ramp up. So again, right around 2 o'clock, where those rain bands start to hit the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Sarasota area, is when the winds will start to get quite gusty as well. The strongest winds for Fort Myers, Sanibel, will happen right around 8 or 9 p.m. The strongest winds for downtown Tampa, St. Pete Beach, Clearwater will occur right around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the strongest winds in the Big Bend will be where it makes landfall, and that will be right around 7 or 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. Also very important is the wind direction. Remember, winds rotate counterclockwise around a hurricane. So let me plop that right there. Let me turn on the telestrator. So winds rotate counterclockwise. Yeah, let me click the pencil here. Sorry about that. And let me fast forward. Oh, bear with me 1 second. Okay. Go right here and turn on the telestrator. They don't make this quite as handy as they should. Anyway, winds rotate counterclockwise around that storm, and what we'll be watching for will be winds that are coming onshore. So when the storm first starts to move into the area, the winds will be blowing out of the east. Once that eye passes your latitude, then you're going to see those winds turn onshore, and that's when we're going to see the damaging onshore winds, which will bring the flooding of the storm surge. So those onshore winds will occur mainly in the second half of the storm. Here's a closer look of the Tampa Bay area primarily, and you can see those winds picking up throughout the day on Tuesday, becoming stronger right around sunset Tuesday evening. The strongest winds will occur right around Tuesday night. Here we are at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're looking at a sustained wind of right around 60 miles per hour for DeSoto and the area beaches, indicated by the orange and reddish color here, and then much lighter as you head inland. Let's take a look at the storm gust, and this is how strong the winds will gust to. So not a sustained wind, but gusting. And you can see a wind gust right around 3 o'clock in the morning of about 71 knots, which is roughly 80-85 miles per hour, is possible in Pinellas Point and parts of St. Petersburg. And Fort DeSoto could see a wind gust approaching 90-95 miles per hour. Same thing goes for Clearwater. You could see a wind gust of 90-95. Tampa, you're looking at a wind gust possible of around 70-75 miles per hour. Heading farther north, where you see the white colors, we're looking at wind gust around 100 miles per hour. So coastal areas of Hernando, Citrus, and Pasco counties, we're looking at wind gust again around 100 miles per hour, represented by that white color there. So some very intense winds moving in with this storm. As if the winds and the rain weren't enough, we're also looking at the possibility, and not really more than the possibility, the likelihood of tornadoes. This is the significant tornado parameter graphic, and you can see the light blue color here representing the possibility of tornadoes as those rain bands move through the area. And again, it's not a question of if we'll have tornadoes, it's where the tornadoes will be. They can come down pretty quick. Fortunately, usually pretty weak though, but you'll want to keep your your phone alerts on, and the ability to get warnings from the National Weather Service to be alerted of those potential waterspouts and tornadoes. We are looking at a ton of rain as well. Here's a look at the rainfall graphic from the same computer model, and it's a little chunky to see here. It's kind of like somebody vomited on the graphic with a bunch of paint, but I'll just quickly tell you what I see here. I'm looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain possible, mainly in the coastal areas of Pinellas County and parts of Manatee and Sarasota, all the way up through Hernando and Pasco and Citrus County as well. Some inland locations will see a bit of some pretty localized flooding as well. So a very tropical air mass dropping a lot of rain. Once you get up closer to the center of circulation, in the purple here in the Big Bend, we are looking at rain totals approaching right around 12 inches of rain. So about a foot of rain, perhaps a little bit more, falling in that northern part of Florida. Here's a longer outlook, and you can see the heavy rain is going to fall all the way up through northern Florida. That includes Savannah, Georgia, and even the Carolinas. So if you live in the Carolinas, don't think that you're going to get a pass on this one. You're looking at the possibility of some flooding rain possibly approaching a foot in parts of the hilly side of North Carolina. So keep that in mind as the storm continues to drift off to the north. Storm surge, again, a big danger, and it's going to be a big damaging part of this storm. Many of the dunes will not withhold the water that's going to come on shore. You can see in this graphic here from the National Hurricane Center, they think that the water is actually going to completely come across either from the Gulf or from the Intracoastal and many parts of St. Pete Beach, heading up through Reddington, etc. This is a graphic that I strongly recommend you checking out. It is on the National Hurricane Center page. It's called Storm Surge Inundation at nhc.noaa.gov. Here's a look at a beta product here from the United States Geological Society, and I picked Reddington Beach here to show you an example about how the water is going to rise. So as we head through the evening hours, the water will be beneath this dune right here. That gray thing is a cross-section of a dune. But you can see as we head through the late evening and into the nighttime hours, the water is going to get higher than that dune, protecting the homes and the businesses. So some flooding is likely here at this location of Town Park in Reddington Beach, Florida, and then it subsides by Wednesday morning. Obviously, high tides playing a huge factor in this as well. If the storm hits during high tide, that's going to make the storm surge roughly 3 feet higher than it would be during low tide. So you definitely want to check out the high tides for your location. Here's a look at the satellite imagery to kind of wrap this all up. And let me slide this over just a little bit here so you can see it better. And you can see the storm has a little convective burst there in the center. It's going to become better organized as we move through the nighttime hours and could possibly undergo rapid intensification as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be a damaging, dangerous storm. Please stay tuned. I'll have more updates, more videos to come, and please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Stay safe.